Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Obinyuji Anachi, and today we will be talking about mass storage media. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify, classify, and discuss three types of mass storage media commonly used in computing systems. Again, you should be able to apply knowledge of data storage technologies to solve a given problem, considering factors such as capacity, performance, and reliability. Again, you should be able to engage in group discussions and collaborative activities to explore and analyze real-world scenarios related to data storage solutions, ensuring inclusivity and equity for all learners. So, before we start, we have to understand what mass storage media is. Mass storage media is one, it is a secondary storage, which means that it serves as a non-volatile auxiliary memory that retains data persistently even when the computer system is powered off. When we say something is volatile, it means that thing loses its data when the machine loses power. Taking RAM for instance, RAM loses its data when you shut down the computer. But mass storage devices are non-volatile, meaning that when the computer shuts down, they still keep their data. Alright, again, have high capacity. When you talk about this is what? It is designed to store massive quantities of system files, user documents, multimedia, and operating systems, ranging from gigabytes to terabytes. When we say mass storage media have higher capacity, it just talked about this. You see, RAM cannot be used to store large files because most machines have RAMs which are less than 32 gig, meaning you can't be able to use it to store large files and games and then movies. But taking mass storage media, for instance, we have terabytes of space, we have gigabytes of space. So this will allow you to be able to store all your files on these storage medias. Again, system accessibility. It acts as the long-term memory repository from which programs and operating system files are located into primary RAM for processing. Alright, so what this is talking about is this one is linked to what we already explained by it being non-volatile. When something is non-volatile, mean that it can store data for long term. So we use this as the long-term memory of computers. So the RAM stores data temporarily. So we don't actually store the data in the RAM. When you boot the computer, the RAM will load this data from the mass storage devices and then use it to work so that the machine will work efficiently. Okay, we have three classifications of mass storage media. They are classified according to their physical mechanism. The first one is magnetic, then we have optical, and lastly, we have solid state. In the subsequent slides, we'll be explaining this in details. Alright, so when we say magnetic storage media, it uses magnetic patterns on rotating metallic or glass platters coated with ferromagnetic materials to record digital binary data, that is zeros and ones. What we are talking about is this storage media uses magnetic technology to store data. At this level, that's what you have to know. This storage media, they use magnetic technology to store data on glass platters or metallic platters. Alright, example of these magnetic storage media is hard disk drives. We also have magnetic tapes and then floppy disks. Magnetic tapes and then floppy disks are somewhat outdated, but hard disk drives are common right now. So I have a picture of hard disk drive here. This is how the inside component of a hard disk drive looks like. So let's talk about the key advantages of these magnetic storage media compared to the other storage medias that we have. So the key advantage is what? It has a very low cost per gigabyte, extremely high storage capacities. So you can go to the market and get a hard disk of 1 terabyte for as low as 100 Ghana cedis. Yeah, it's true. You can get that because they are very cheap. Cost per gigabyte is very cheap. It's the cheapest among all the three storage media. Alright, so let's talk about the downside, the disadvantage of this. Moving mechanical parts make it vulnerable to drop damage and slower access speeds. One of the disadvantage of using hard drive is it is susceptible to damage when it falls down because this platter inside it, they are breakable. They can break easily. So when you drop this storage media and the platter breaks, it will cause the storage media to stop. And using magnetic technology is somehow slow. So these storage medias are slow compared to other storage medias that we have. So let's move on to the next storage media that we have. We have solid state drive. So solid state drive stores data electronically in non-volatile flash memory memory microchips using floating gate transistors without any moving parts or physical component. So these solid state drives, they are the current one. They are the new technology that most people are using right now. They do not store data in magnetic platters and then require a magnetic something to rotate over it to be able to store the data. But this one stores data in semiconductors electronically. So this is very fast because electricity is very fast. This makes the storage state media very fast compared to the other mass storage media that we have. Examples of these storage state media that we have is solid state drives, USB flash drives, and then SD cards. We all know pen drives. Yeah, pen drives are examples of storage state storage media. All right. The key advantage, as I already talked about, ultra fast read write speeds, high physical shock resistance, silent operation. These storage media, since they are not having any moving parts, they do their work silently and they are more shock proof. So you can drop them and then pick them up without having any notion that they will destroy or anything. So the key drawback, disadvantage of this is high cost per gigabyte compared to traditional HDDs. As I already talked about, HDDs are very cheap. But looking at SSD and then HDD, you can get an HDD, a 1 terabyte HDD for about 100 Ghana cedis. But going for 100 gigabyte SSD will cost you not less than 800 Ghana cedis. So you can see the price difference. These storage state media are very expensive, and then due to the technology that they are using, I think they are worth the price. The last class of mass storage media that we talk about is optical storage media. When you say optics, we are all dealing about what? Light. So these storage media uses laser beams to bend and reflect microscopic pits and flat lines on reflective polycarbonate plastic disc representing digital data. So as I already said, they are using light to actually bend and reflect microscopic pits on flat lines. And examples of these optical storage media is compact disc, digital versatile disc, Blu-ray disc. And these technologies are actually becoming obsolete. So you might not see it around. But first, they were the real G's, because you go to movie shops, then you buy Ghanaian movie, and then they will store this in DVDs and then CDs. You just come and then insert into your disk, and then you are good to go. So let's talk about the key advantage of these storage media. They are highly portable, immune to magnetic interference, and cheap distribution medium. Yeah, they are very portable. Because of their size, you can be able to fit it inside your bag. They are not bulky, and then you can be able to hold it and then move around freely. And they are immune to magnetic interference because they are not using any magnetic parts. And then they are cheap distribution medium. Since they are portable, you can be able to distribute it. It doesn't need any big cover like how the ADD is. You have to cover it in their case and all those type. But this one, they are portable. You can, and then you'll be moving around. So the key disadvantage of these optical storage media is they are susceptible to surface scratches, lower capacity compared to SSDs and ADDs. It will be very difficult for you to find a DVD disc that is about 10 gig. It will be very difficult. You won't get that because their capacity is somehow very low, and they are susceptible to surface scratches. When you are watching, you have these optical storage media for some time, and then you are playing movies or something from it, you see that it will be having some breakages in the movie caused by the scratches at the back of this card. So once these scratches comes at the back of these cards, then their efficiency will drop. So this is the key disadvantage of this storage media also. All right. So now let's compare the three storage media that we have talked about. Let's compare them side by side. So the first variable that we'll be comparing is what? Mechanism. So magnetic, example HDD, they use magnetic platters. The optical, that is DVD, they use laser light reflection. Then the solid state, example is SSD, they use what? Semiconductor chips. Then let's talk about their typical capacity. Their typical capacity, magnetic HDD have a capacity of around 500 gigabyte to 20 terabytes. And then the optical that is the DVD and co, they have 700 megabytes to about 50 gigabytes. Then the solid state SSD have 128 gigabyte to 8 terabytes. So let's talk about the access speed. So magnetic, that is the HDD, they have the moderate speed, that is 120 megabytes per second. They are faster than the optical, and then they are slower than the solid state drive. Then the optical, they are the slowest. They have around 15 to 30 megabytes per second. You can imagine this. They are very, very slow. Then the solid state, they are extremely fast, 500 to 7,000 megabytes per second. Wow, can you believe this? Then let's talk about durability. The magnetic, that is the HDD, they are very low because of their mechanical parts, their moving parts, and so on. They are susceptible to, when you drop them, then they will break and all those style. And then we have optical. Optical, they have moderate, they are scratch prone. And then once they break also, you won't be able to use it. Sometimes they will be corrupted when they break. Then the solid state, they are very high. They have very high durability. They can drop them, you can pick them up, you can do this. They are not susceptible to scratches, and although they are durable. Yeah. So now let's talk about cost per gigabyte. Magnetic HDD have a very low price. Yeah, cost per gigabyte is very low. As I already said, you can get around 1 terabyte HDD for about 100 Ghana cedis. Then the optical, they have low per disk unit. They are also lower as compared to the solid state drives. And then the SSDs, they are moderate to high. They are actually high. They are the highest among these because cost per gigabyte of, if you say 1 terabyte of SDD compared to 1 terabyte of ADD, you have about 700 cedis different. So you can just imagine it. Okay. So now let's talk about the read and write speeds of some selected storage medias. We have the NVMe PCIe SSD. We have with the SSD, we have two types of it. And due to the scope of our lesson, we won't be talking about that, but we will just be doing the comparison. So the NVMe PCIe SSD has a speed of around 3,500 megabytes per second. So it's actually the fastest among all the storage media that we'll be talking about today. Then followed by SSD3. SSD3, that is, yeah, SSD3, that is having a speed of 550 megabytes per second. Then we'll talk about 7200 RPM hard disk, which is having a speed of about 150 megabytes per second. Then last but not the least, we'll talk about a 16 Blu-ray disc that is having a speed of 72 megabytes per second. So thank you for staying with me. Now I will break. I want to summarize everything that we did in this chapter. So first one, we talk about mass storage. That is the purpose of it. That it provides long term. They are non-volatile, and that means that they retain data, and when the computer shuts down and then boots again, they will still be having that data on it. So they are used to store at user files and then system files. Okay, then we talk about the three classes of these mass storage media. We had magnetic, which is ADDs, and then we have optical, example Blu-ray discs, CD, DVD, and then finally we have solid state drives, SSDs, and then USB drives. Let's talk about we also talked about performance trade-offs. We said solid state media offers the highest speed and shock resistance, whereas magnetic media provide the cheapest capacity per gigabyte. So you see the trade-offs. These are cheaper, HDD are cheaper, but they are slower. SSDs are much, but they are also faster. So you have to do this trade-off when you are buying something. And then the practical selection. Choice of storage media depend directly on user requirements for portability, budget, speed, and durability. So before you go out to buy any storage media, you have to compare this, their portability, their budget that you are having, the speed that you want, and then the durability. Okay, so this brings us to the end of today's lesson. I hope to see you in the subsequent lesson. Thank you all for joining me.